Let's take a moment of silence before we get started, please. Thank you very much. We will officially call this town meeting to order. This is the regular monthly meeting of the Town of Holden Beach Board of Commissioners. And we would like to welcome all of you. We see a couple of new faces in the room, and you all are welcome, and especially the new ones, but the good old guys that always show up in here too. So it's going to be a good evening to share our knowledge, experiences, and thank you for being here again. And let's stand and pledge allegiance to the flag to my right, your left. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For those of you that might not be aware, to the rear of the room are the documents and our agenda and supporting documents for the evening. If you haven't found those yet, you may want to go back and get a copy. Number 4 on the agenda is consideration of approving the agenda.
Go ahead. Mr. Mayor, I just have a slight modification to agenda number 7. I was notified that Ms. La Follette Black was unable to attend, and substituting for her will be Mr. Dwight Willis as the guest speaker number 7.
All right, any other additions, changes, corrections, deletions?
And I'd like to request the addition of executive session at item 20A for property acquisition.
What number is that?
20A, 20 alpha.
20 alpha. Executive session.
For property acquisition.
Okay. Any other changes to consider? Hearing none, is motion to approve.
I move we approve the agenda as amended.
Is there a second?
Second?
Motion to approve and a second the amended proposed agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. The agenda is approved as amended. We're on number 5, consideration of approval of minutes for the meeting of June the 20th. Is there a motion to approve?
I make the motion to approve.
I second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. They're approved. 5B, consideration of the minutes of the June 23rd special meeting. Motion to approve.
I move that we approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. They stand approved as presented. And before I forget it, those of you in the rear of the room, if you cannot hear, if you raise your hand, we will talk more into the mic. Okay? Number 6, public comments. We have no one signed up. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
That is correct.
Okay. Number 7, guest speaker, Mr. Dwight Willis.
I love technology. I just hope it works tonight for me. I'm Dwight Willis. I live here on the island, and tonight I've got a little different hat. I'm an AARP volunteer and a legislative advocate for the 7th Congressional District. I'm doing this presentation tonight in the absence of Suzanne Lockwood Black, who had to go to Arizona on Sunday morning. She has an aging mother. She's 97 years old, so when your mother calls when you're 97, I think you should go to Arizona and see her. So I recommend that you do that. As you all know in this room, many of us are graying, and so many of you are familiar with AARP is a national advocacy organization. We have offices in all 50 states and Puerto Rico, D.C., and the Virgin Islands. You know that we advocate on a lot of issues like Social Security and Medicare, support for family caregivers, and working to increase access to retirement savings for private sector workers. But a lot of you don't know that since 2012, we've been working with communities across America to make them more livable and walkable for people of all ages, and we call these places that we've been working in livable communities. As you all know, we are growing older. We're aging in every state and almost all of our cities. Almost 46 million Americans are 65 or older today, and that figure will rise to 73 million by 2030. By then, 1 out of every 5 people in this country will be 65 and older. And while we're aging, it's not just getting older. By 2050, there will be 18 million Americans over the age of 85. We've never gotten that old before. And so, aging is a very important issue in America. And it's not just the baby boomers. There is a day, January the 1st, 2043, when boomers, Gen Xers, and millennials will all be eligible for Social Security at the same time. And so the millennials are our largest generation, and there's almost 80 million of those. But in a national survey, it says 8 in 10 people want to remain in their communities, in their homes, as they age. We call this aging in place. People want to stay where they've been. And people deserve to live their lives where we want to stay, where we want to go, to be engaged in the community and contribute as long as we can. And so it's important to everybody that we be able to have a community where our citizens can age in place. I hope it's also obvious that when we talk about improving communities for older adults, that it also improves the community for all ages. And so we call it this kind of community an age-friendly community. Everybody, whatever age you are, you want to live in a place where you feel comfortable and safe, where you can find a home that fits your life, you can move around easily, you can access all the services, entertainment, and the opportunities that you want and that you need. But it's important to note that people are staying in their communities not because they have to, but because they want to. People like to choose where they live. They want to age in place. They don't want to be trapped in place. And so while people like the places they live, we need our governments and our businesses and everybody else who works with us to help us and do some things to make this happen so that our seniors can age in place. So the government needs to look at their policies to ensure that we're providing the flexibility to give people options. Businesses and developers should look at providing people with different options and different kinds of communities designed to meet their needs. And people have to look at their own actions to see what their future will look like. And so while some of the baby boomers are looking for fixer-uppers, a lot of us older people are looking for fixing up our house to see how to help our legs and our backs and how we're going to get up and down all these steps here at the beach. And so we have different kinds of needs, but we're all looking to be able to be in a place where we can age in place. There's an increased demand even here at the beach for designs like elevators and non-slip floors and electrical outlets that you don't have to get on your knees, so they may be up a little higher for us senior citizens. Unfortunately, most communities do not feel prepared for aging populations. AARP did a study recently with Governing Magazine and found that only 16% of our communities are extremely prepared for what to do with their aging populations in the next 25 years. So there's a lot of work to be done. What are non-AFN communities missing out on? AFN means age-friendly networks, okay, age-friendly networks. So what are we missing out on? Because we're not a member of the age-friendly network, what are we missing out on? Livable communities are now active in over 175 locations around the country, and a lot of interest every day. And the expectation is that there will be 230 age-friendly communities designated in America by the end of this year. 4 communities in North Carolina have already joined the age-friendly network. They are Matthews, North Carolina, which was the first one, followed by Mecklenburg, Wake County, and most recently, Orange County. 3 other towns in Brunswick County are currently considering, are having this presentation or are considering this as well. We know that you people on our town council are very concerned about making sure that you are providing the services and the benefits that our citizens need, and so we want to help you look at a way to find that. We also know that creating livable communities is an economic incentive for the community. Homes, offices, and property values increase when they're closer to parks, when they're more diverse, and they're easy to walk to with places to walk to. And compact communities like ours have a real advantage in being able to have walkability and livability factors. At the same time, just because we're getting older doesn't mean that we aren't empowered. Older Americans make up are responsible for $7.1 trillion in economic activity and 98 million jobs in this country. That's half of the country's GDP and 2/3 of the job. So just because we're not maybe as young as we used to be, we're still contributing very much to the economic benefits of being in this country. Senior citizens also make up the largest voting bloc, and they vote in higher numbers and more often than any other age group. They also pay more attention to local issues more so than the younger people do. So the question is, what is a great community for all? So what would we like to have? You know, what do we want? What does everybody want? To be able to go for a walk, cross the street, to ride a bike, get around without a car, live safe and comfortably, work or volunteer. Those are things that everybody wants to do. You see in this slide, those are the 170 age-friendly network communities that are already working within the 8 domains of this process. AARP is leading this movement in the United States. It's a World Health Organization project, and so the AARP organization in America is leading it in America, and it's in a number of other countries as well. It was established in 2012 in the United States, and now 64 million people live in age-friendly communities. So there are 8 domains. I'm not going to read all of this to you. There's information in your packet. For those of you in the audience who would like to learn more about age-friendly communities, you can go on aarp.com and go into age-friendly communities, and there's just lots of information about aging in place and about the 8 domains. So 2 of the domain 1 and 2, outdoor spaces and buildings, and transportation. Wichita, Kansas built a grandparents' park. Altamonte Springs, Florida had a contract with the town government and Uber to be able to provide transportation for its seniors. The big advantage of being part of the age-friendly network is that all of these other communities are also dealing with aging populations. And so rather than Holden Beach trying to figure out what should we do to help people in these situations, why don't we look at what 230 other communities across the nation have done in these areas, and how do they provide for their senior citizens? And so it's a way for us to look at that as well. Domain 3 and 4 have to do with housing and social participation. In Oregon, one of the communities certified residences as a lifelong home. So they actually got their builders and their planning departments looking at how we can make homes that people could grow into and age into over the long term. Domain 5 and 6, respecting social inclusion and civic participation in employment. I think a lot of those things we already do at Holden Beach, and so you will see probably when you look at our livability score online that we already do some of those things really, really well. You'll see that in Denver, they did these neighbor walks. In Colorado Springs, they actually have a way to certify age-friendly businesses. 7 and 8, communication and information and community and health services. In Brownsville, Texas, they do an opportunity for people to get out and walk and their seniors. And in Oklahoma City, they lost 1 million pounds as part of a health-conscious program that they went on there. So what is the process? In years 1 and 2, you apply and plan. You go online, you look at what our livability index is. Right now at Holden Beach, we're a number 42. That's not horrible, it's not 0, but it's not 99, okay? And so we've got some work to do. It's never about comparing Holden Beach to New York City. It's not about comparing Holden Beach to Brownsville, Texas, or to Raleigh. It's about comparing Holden Beach in 2017 to what we'd like Holden Beach to look like in 2025. Okay, it's about developing a plan, a long-range plan, and being deliberate and intentional and planning for our citizens as they age. As many of you know, we have an aging population on this island. I think our average age, somebody told me, was 70. Okay, that makes me the young guy in town. Okay, so, most of us want to stay here as long as we can be productive and make a contribution to this island. We want to stay here as long as we can, and so we want to do everything we can to have that infrastructure in place to allow that to happen. I came here to die, not anytime soon, but I don't intend to leave before then. What you get when you join. And the good thing here for the town council that you're going to like when I say this, it costs $0 to join the age-friendly network. It's a very, very short 2-page application process to do that. And what you get the National Livable Communities Conference, you get technical assistance, webinar series, community matching for support, age-friendly network private groups, and do-it-yourself toolkits and resources. The AARP Age-Friendly Communities recently did a whole series of grants for local communities, $50,000 grants. So if we decided in Holden Beach that we needed more sidewalks to make it a better place, or better crosswalks to make it safer to get back and forth across our streets, we might apply for a grant, Christy. We might apply for a grant and have some of that money provided for us to be able to do some of those things that would make our community more age-friendly. The AARP Livability Index. If you go online and look at our index, you will see all of the 8 domains and how Holden Beach very specifically lines up with those domains and where we're strong. Some of them, you got a green, there are 3 colors, there's green, yellow, and red, and if you got a green light, that means you're really doing a great job. You're above the standard in the United States of America. If you're yellow, you're about average, and if you're red, it means that you're below what the national average would be. And so it's a good way to look at where we are. And so what I'm asking tonight is for you to do absolutely nothing tonight. But I'm asking for you to really look at the materials I gave you, to go online and look at this website, to consider the information that I provided for you here, and to seriously think about Holden Beach being the first town to join the Age-Friendly Community Network in the United States, in Brunswick County, and to be the first town to do that, and to lead the way for this community and to show our citizens. You know, one of the complaints I hear often about Holden Beach is we're always doing everything for the tourist. What about the residents who live here full time? This is something that you guys can, there's no lady anymore, that you guys can do for the residents who live here full time, and it would improve the quality of life both for our residents and for our tourists. It's going to make this town a better place. And so thank you for your time and your patience. If you have a question, if Peter will give me 1 second, I will answer. And so if Alan will let me, if you have a question, I'd be happy to answer if I can.
Commissioners, do you have a question?
Yeah, Dennis, you've given us a lot of,
You always call me Dennis, Mr. Watt.
I'm Dwight, I'm sorry.
I know.
I got your name written right here. You've given us a lot of philosophical reasons why it makes sense to be an age-friendly neighborhood. Do you have, and given that you're here at Holden Beach, do you have any specific examples of things, given the way the island is, you know, we do have certain restrictions, but do you have some specific recommendations that we could consider that would be relatively easy to implement?
Well, now that you ask, I do. I've got several. I mean, the main one would be the biggest area that we are lacking in for seniors in our town is transportation. So if there was some way for us to have some kind of minivan or bus or trolley or something like that we might could use for our tourists and could take people up and down the island and maybe the grocery store and the drugstore and the water slide and the ice cream shops or something like that, It would allow people who are seniors, especially who are no longer driving, to be able to do that. A couple of people I know, since we've been here 14 years now, and a couple of people that I know wanted to stay longer than they did. They had to leave because they no longer had transportation. And if we had just had that minimal level of transportation, they could have stayed here, and that they couldn't. And so some of that could be handled with a grant. Our representative in the North Carolina State House, Mr. Eiler, is chairman of the State Transportation Committee. He told me one day recently that if we had transportation issues, he'd be happy to discuss that with us. And so, something like that would really help seniors who can no longer drive to be able to remain in their current housing and still have some of their basic needs met. That's just one thing I would start with.
Any more commissioner questions? Anyone in the audience want to ask Mr. Willis any questions?
Does this cost anything for the city to be part of it?
It costs nothing for us to join, and we get the access. And see, the greatest thing about this is, rather than us looking for, if you guys have an issue that we're struggling with, you've got all of these other communities who are already doing many of these things that you go and you have immediate access to what they're doing and how they did it, and it might not be the same way for us, but we would have an opportunity to see what they did and to see what worked and what didn't work, and it just makes sense to do it.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mitzi York, going to talk with us about tourism. She's the Brunswick County Tourism Development Authority.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here today to give you a brief update on some of the things that Brunswick County Tourism Development Authority has been working on. Just as a little bit of background for folks who aren't familiar with the Brunswick County Tourism Development Authority, or the TDA as we're commonly known, we were formed in 1997. It is a county-appointed authority, and it's funded by the county 1% occupancy tax. It's what the tourists pay when they visit Holden Beach and the other areas of Brunswick County. There are 10 members of our board, all appointed by the County Board of Commissioners, and our chairman is Bonnie Cox, who is a resident of Holden Beach. My arm's no longer long enough for me to read without my glasses. So Brunswick County, we rank 9th in the state out of 100 counties as far as the amount of money that tourists spend in our county. That was in 2015. The 2016 numbers won't be available probably until August of this year. But in 2015, visitors spent in Brunswick County $508 million, almost $509 million. And that was up 2.5% over 2014. The state and local tax revenues from tourism in Brunswick County totaled $54.4 million, or for tax savings, if we had as residents to make up that revenue, $443.14 for each county resident. So in the last fiscal year, I don't have the numbers yet for 16, 17, we haven't put all that together, but in 15, 16, our program generated over 113,000 inquiries or requests for our vacation, golf, or wedding guides. And I left at your individual places a copy of our current vacation guide. And some of you in the audience might ask why you don't see our vacation guide in Brunswick County, and that's because what we want to do is get the vacation guide in the hands of people who are planning their vacation. And so the folks that live here or are already visiting here aren't our target, so that's why we don't distribute those, the vacation guide locally. In 2016, we attracted 340,708 unique visitors to our website and generated over 1 million page views. We also generated 108,840 downstream visits to our partner websites, which is really important because that's where the bookings actually are going to happen is going to be on our partner websites. So that was a tremendous amount of growth for us. That was a 54% increase in unique visitors over 2015, 55% increase in page views, and a 17% increase in downstream visits to our partner websites. Also in 2016, we hosted 13 travel writers and generated over 80 media placements, which reached over 79 million people for an editorial value of over $2.3 million. We received coverage from USA Today, MSN Travel, Southern Living, Coastal Living, Country Living, the AAA Carolinas, as well as other media sources. Also wanted to mention a program that we're working on this year as part of our public relations. We've have been doing a campaign which we refer to as the Best Beach Campaign, and we sent out a lot of information earlier this year to media sources to encourage them to include our islands on their best beach list, or you may have seen a lot of places do best beaches or best beach towns, and we've been included in National Geographic's list of best beaches, Coastal Living, Southern Living, Reader's Digest, Good Housekeeping. So it's been a very successful program, and in fact, Holden Beach was listed in both Southern Living and Coastal Living's list of best beaches in North Carolina. And in June of this year, the website Red Tricycle, which has almost 1.6 million unique visitors a month, named Holden Beach as one of the top 13 sort of hidden gem beaches that people should visit. So some other highlights for 2016, our 2016 vacation guide received the Platinum Award from the Destination Marketing Association of North Carolina for the best collateral piece. We also won a Silver award from the Davy Awards, and our creative campaign won a Silver Award as well from the Davy Awards. And that is, the Davy Awards honors the best in web design, video advertising, mobile and social media from small agencies worldwide. So that's a worldwide program, not just a state program. Also, in 2016, we did a conversion study in which we sent a survey out to people who had made inquiries from the TDA expressing interest in visiting Brunswick County, and we asked them information about whether they came, or if they did come, how much money did they spend, and how long did they stay. So from the conversion study that we did, the average length of stay was 6.2 days, and the average group size was 5 people, and the average spending per person per day was $168.55. So that's an average party value of over $5,000. And then based on our conversion study, about 51% of the people who made inquiries indicated that they either had visited or planned to visit within the coming year. So if you take a look at the 113,000 inquiries that we generated with that conversion rate and the spending per party, then our marketing efforts would be expected to generate over $300 million for our economy. So based on our budget of what we spent that fiscal year of $1,293,000, then for every dollar we spent in marketing, we could expect to generate $233 back into our community. So anyway, that is a very quick kind of overview of 2016, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Commissioners, do you have any questions? Audience, do you have any questions? Thank you very much for being here.
Thank
I
you.
know you've been doing this for a long time.
I have, but I enjoy it, so thank you.
I remember those that were there and hired you. Okay, Fire Chief Doug Todd, number 9 on our agenda. Thanks to you and all of your firemen that do such a good job, Chief.
Yes.
Tonight, I'm just gonna provide a brief update of where we are so far this year. We now, so far in 2017, at the end of June, we've run 647 calls. 98 of them have been on the island. That's a 12.8% increase from 2016, where we was at last year. So we've seen an increase in calls this year. And kind of give you a little bit of background, in 2013, we ran 200 calls over here for the year out of 1,157. 2014, 202 out of 1,153. 2015, 201 out of 1,187. And 2016, 181 out of 1,246 calls for the year. So far this year, we've had a kind of busy year on structure fires. We've had 9 total structure fires so far, one of them being on the island. Luckily, it was a very small incident, oven fire, got contained pretty quick, and we've had some that's on the mainland that's been some pretty significant fires. We've had 1 brush fire on the island and 7 on the mainland side. We've had 1 vehicle fire over here and 2 on the mainland side so far this year. EMS assist calls, we've had 7 on the island and about 50 so outside on the mainland side. Our biggest run calls is for the fire department now is medical calls. We've run 51 so far on the island this year. And between the other 2 stations, 178 in Station 1's area, which is the main station, and then the station that's down in the Bones Neck area is run 127. And then we run 2, we also keep account for Varnumtown, and we run 10 in the city limits of Varnumtown so far this year. We've only had 3 water rescue calls so far this year, 2 of them on the island and 1 other on the mainland side. I think that's a little bit better than what we normally run, so I'm hoping it sticks to that. We've had an increase in fire alarm calls. We've had 8 of those on the island, 9 of them in Station 1's area, and 6 of them in Station 3's area, and 1 in the Varnumtown for fire alarm calls. We've had 15 what we call good intent calls, and what we do with those is our service calls, like we may come see somebody get in a house or somebody falls and when they need some help getting up, but it's not necessarily a medical issue, they need some type of assistance. Or it could be a call that got canceled, you know, that we were responding to. We've had a couple calls where people's had water leaks. We had one a couple nights ago. Somebody couldn't get the water shut off. So the fire department unfortunately gets dispatched to anything else, anybody they can't think of where else to send it to. Luckily the police department got there, they got dispatched as well, and they got it cut off before we got there and canceled this. So when the police department over here is real good about helping out with calls, you know, they get dispatched to a lot of them, get the information, and they will go check on them. They do cancel us a lot on those type of calls. Our busiest day of the week is Thursday. We run 112 calls on Thursday, and the rest of them are kind of scattered out in the 90s and 80 range. But Thursday, for some reason, seems to be the busiest day of the week this year so far. And let's see. Our busiest time of the day is around 2 o'clock in the afternoon is when we're saying to be the busiest. The rest of the time, it goes anywhere from 1 call down to the next highest, I think, is about 8. But the rest, that 2 o'clock seems to be the busiest. Our incidents per month, in January we had 5 on the island, had 76 on the mainland area. We had 4, or 76 total for the month. February we had 4 on the island, 72 total. March 12, 115 total. In April we had 21 on the island, 97 total. May we had 23 on the island, 134. And in June we had 31 on the island and 153 total calls for the month of June. And I think that's the busiest month we've had so far in a regular while. The average response time to the island, in January, we started out at a little over 8 minutes for the average response time, and we don't man the island station between January, and we started in May manning it. And then in June, when we got the statistics, we're down to about a 6-minute response time on the island, and we do man the island station from Memorial Day to Labor Day. And it's not manned at nighttime, so the calls at night, they make that time go up a little bit. If you just took the daytime calls, it'd probably be a little bit lower than that for our average response time. So far this year, we've had a little over $95,000 worth of loss in property to fire. We've had 2 CO incidents. We've gave mutual aid to other departments 27 times. We've received mutual aid from our neighboring department 16 times. And this is something, the next one is something that seems to be getting higher and higher every year. We've had 114 overlapping calls. And what that means is we've had 2 or more calls going on at the same time. And our average time on scene has been a little over 30 minutes on average. And the structure fires usually are what drives those up. The highlights for this year is in the new budget that we just got into, I've requested 2 more full-time employees, and that got approved in the budget. So we're going to have 2 full-time employees on at nighttime. I was supplemented with 1 full-time employee and a part-time employee or a volunteer would come up and sign in for the nighttime shift. And we were fortunate enough that our budget got approved through the county, and we were able to add on to 2 other personnel. I've already hired one of them, and I'm in the process of interviewing for the other one. So that brings to right now we have 12 full-time employees, 11 part-time employees, and 17 volunteers. Anybody have any questions? Let me go ahead and try to answer.
Commissioners, you got any questions?
I do, Chief. I've been reading about the funding changes,
Yes, sir.
and I've read about it's pretty significant change. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
The commissioners, we done some studies, and I was involved in the studies that were done and made some recommendations to commissioners, and they wanted, the county commissioners, and they wanted more time to look into another way to fund us. They don't particularly like fire fees because it's a hard way to generate it on the tax bill. It's kind of cumbersome. If it was a tax, it'd be a lot easier to do. So they chose to submit legislature to be able to raise the fire fee cap. They doubled them, pretty much is what they did, the cap that is allowed, till they can find out if they want to continue with fire fees or if they want to come up with some kind of other source of funding. And in doing that, they asked us to submit a new budget. In that budget, we would have needed about an 18 to 20% increase. The commissioners voted at one of their meetings to do a 25% across the board raise to all fire departments. So we get an extra 5% above what we actually asked for. I will tell you that before we maxed out probably about 6 years ago on the fire fees that were in place before the new legislature came into effect, and we were the last fire department to do that, to max our fees out. And we've been maxed out, like I said, about 6 or 7 years. So it gives us some growing room until the county can decide how they want to fund the fire departments or where they're going to go with our funding. They also agreed to establish a fire commission that's going to, one of their tasks is going to be to look into this funding, is what I understand from what I've been told. They came up with a slate of how the board's going to be made up. There's 19 members, so I don't know how we're going to get much done with 19 people, but that's the way it's set up. And each commissioner district gets a representative from the town. The commissioner gets a rotating for the towns that are in that commissioner district. I think it starts out with y'all being getting the first representation. The mayor or the mayor pro tem gets to sit on that commission, and the fire chief. Each commissioner district, one of the fire chiefs in that commissioner district also gets to sit on it. And then there's 5 people from at large that commissioners appoint. Each commissioner gets to appoint a person that can't be involved in no fire service or anything in the county. It has to be somebody that's not active in the fire service. And I think 2 commissioners sit on it and the emergency service director. And then the president of the Chiefs Association gets to sit on it for the Fire Chiefs Association, which is currently me. So I'll have a seat on the commission.
What effect does that have on the town budget-wise? David?
No effect on the town's budget. It'll probably affect your bill that you get from the county since they went up on the fire fee.
That's what it'll affect. There's some bill on your taxes, it's set a fire fee, so it's gonna go up 25% of what you paid last year. If it was $100, it'd be $125 this year. Just for an example. We do not ask for any supplemental funding. We're the only ones, I think, that's attached to a municipality that does not ask for any supplemental funding from the municipality. And in my opinion, you paying a fire fee, I don't need to ask for more money when we're providing the same service across the bridge. And that's the way I've tried to keep it. I've always fought against asking for any additional money. I think it should be even across the board.
Great, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Chief, could you comment on the additional full-time personnel that you have as relates to the number of volunteers? Do you see that as a trend, in the future? And what's driving that? Is it the complexity of what's going on, the growth in the area, or the fact that you can't get volunteers to do the types of things that you need, or all the above?
It's a combination of several things, and I think the biggest thing is used to people worked in the community, and the people you work for would give you time off to go volunteer some time, like to the fire service or whatever. But now most companies are staffing just the people they can need to get the job done, so they can't afford to let anybody leave work. So it's hard for volunteers to get off and come to calls when they're actually on the job. And secondly is the demand of training. It takes a lot of training and stuff to be in the fire department anymore. I mean, you got a lot of job skills and stuff there that's got to be proficient at. And then two, people are trying to spend more time with their families as well. But you take your job and then you try to volunteer, and then you got kids just trying to play ball and, cheerleading or whatever it may be. It just takes too much of their time. They just don't have the time to put in for the training demand that's there to be able to do it. And we had to have pay staff to supplement that to be able to cover the calls. Now we have real good comeback volunteers to come back to the essential calls that we need. And I really don't push them and ask them to come back to medical calls and stuff that we can handle. When we have a structure fire, we do have real good turnouts for it, and calls like the water rescue call where we had needed to do the search that we had a couple weeks ago. We had a real good turnout of volunteers that came back and able to man the boats to get out there and show an effort to try to search for the person. So the demanding calls, they do show back up for them.
Will you review with us the coverage of our on-island station? If you're adding 2 more people, does that impact the coverage here on the island?
It does not. What that's doing is giving me another full-time person, so I can have 2 people on staff at the main station on Sabbath-Home Road that'll be there. So we're staffing that station 24 hours a day. So I'm not having to rely on trying to get a part-timer to come in or a volunteer to sign up. And what I'm encouraging the volunteers, we keeping the sign-up part for the volunteers. We pay them $50 a night, or $50 a shift, or a 12-hour shift if they sign up for duty. We're encouraging them to still sign up for shift, which would, if they sign up at nighttime, that's going to give us a 3rd person, which is even better, giving us more staffing to be able to help. Right now, we just, with the fundings and stuff we have, the best option I can do is staff it from, when the island is the busiest, from Memorial Day to Labor Day.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Again, thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
We've got somebody in the back. Yes, ma'am?
Just a thank you from the Sheriff Cadets for what you do, what your staff does, what your volunteers do. You do a very important job there.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Chief Wally Lane?
Good evening, everyone. I like being able to stand up here and say, everything's great, wonderful, no big deals, everything just running smooth. However, during the past month, we've actually had 2 media events, for lack of better terminology. Had a 19-year-old from the Charlotte area that fell 3 stories from a deck onto a concrete driveway, and obviously that was a fatality. And then 2 weeks ago, as the fire chief mentioned, we had a young man from Kentucky that drowned in the Lockwood Folly Inlet. Hopefully, that's the end of all that for this summer. 1's too many, 2 is definitely too many. Don't need any more of that, and obviously we send our condolences to both those families. Other than that, it's a typical busy season with all the other things that are going on. And since last we met, we have yet survived another 4th of July. And the fire chief didn't mention it, but the island didn't burn down during that realistic 2-week period of the 4th of July, because we had 2 weeks of the 4th of July this year, in case y'all didn't notice. So we were lucky in that regard. The tropics appear to be trying to heat up. There are a couple little features out there now. Tropical Storm Dawn, which is supposed to go away in the next day or 2. And there's another little thing behind that that doesn't have a name yet. I'm sure they would love to name it if they could, but I don't think it's going to last long enough for that. But suffice it to say, the tropics are heating up, and we're just really beginning hurricane season for us. So keep that in mind. Make sure your plans are in order, and be ready to do whatever you have to do if you have to do it, and I hope you don't have to. Other than that, be glad to answer any questions. Yes, sir.
So the day that boy drowned, I read the article, and it stated that there was a no swim warning that day. That's what it said in the article. I've never heard of such a thing.
That's because we don't issue those.
Okay. I actually was out there that day, and I got caught in it myself.
Well, what I'm saying is the National Weather Service, if you check the National Weather Service's website every day, they do a beach forecast, and that will let you know what the forecast is for rip currents and those sorts of things. I don't really think that this particular situation was so much a rip current as it was a longshore current. And he was so close to the inlet that the longshore current was moving to the east, which was towards the inlet. And the tide at the time obviously had changed. And I think the combination of those 2 effects simultaneously are what really the problem was. I don't think it was so much a rip current as it was a combination of currents. Yes, sir.
That happens in the channel. That's just,
Well, you don't swim in the inlet if you got any sense. Hot dog, I'm
I
sorry.
totally agree with that.
Yes, sir.
Last month you gave us an update on the unintended equipment on the beach.
We're still loading it up. I don't have the exact numbers this month. I didn't know that you wanted them every month. I think it's less. It's probably 50% less this month, from what I understand, in talking to Tim, than it was last month. So less is better. And none would be great. I had an officer that got whacked in the head trying to take down somebody's cabana the other night in the wind, and it got away from him, whacked him in the head, and ended up going to the hospital for some stitches. So collecting it is no fun, but we're out there, we're doing it. Paying the price, but we're doing it.
All right, thank you a lot, Chief.
Yep. Oh, question?
Number 11 on the agenda. Ms. Ferguson?
Good evening, everyone. In the memo that I wrote to you guys, I mentioned that Coastal Race Productions would be here to give you more information. I got a call from them as I was unloading our vehicle for tie-dye today that they actually messed up their calendar in some way, and they are out of town at a conference. They thought they should be here Thursday night, and they were confused, so they cannot be here tonight, but they did send me some points of how this would work. This is a 2-point process. The signs are not a big deal. They normally put them up every year, but it is in our ordinance that they need to seek approval since we're just a co-sponsor. They're an outside agency. But the beer garden would be new. There are several races that are linked together that this company runs. There's an Oak Island one, there's a Sunset Beach one, there's an Ocean Isle one. If you run all of them and you run the half marathon, you can actually link the medals together and you get a large race medal. I think they advertise it as the world's largest race medal. But anyway, we appear to be in the meetings, what they've told me is the only town that does not allow them to have a beer garden afterwards. And the way their beer garden works is that only runners that are registered and over 21 will have to show ID when they pick up their packet to receive a bracket. And I think they meant bracelet there, but they get a bracelet that they would show. They obtain all permits and list Holden Beach as additionally insured on their insurance. They only serve 1 beer per runner over age 21 after their race. The company receives this beer via kegs on a trailer with a tap from a local distributor, and the location will be secluded west of the what they're calling the amphitheater, but our pavilion, and could be roped off. So basically they're asking permission to give the runners 1 beer after they finish their race at a beer garden that's roped off. The only other comment that I would make is that I know in a previous meeting, Commissioner Royal mentioned sometimes when he votes, he has a list of things that he votes on. And one of those is, does it set a precedence? I have heard the merchants before express that they would like to have a beer garden as part of the festivals, but these two groups don't run in circles together. So I don't think that they've talked. I do think that you'll hear a beer garden request in the future, but I don't think it's linked to this request for a beer garden. I think those folks had that idea on their own. They just haven't got to you yet, but that would probably come in the future. And I didn't plan to present on their behalf, but that's what I know about it. I'll try to answer questions if you guys have any.
Have you a recommendation for us?
I've talked to Wally a little bit. I think the only other thing the town would ask is maybe if one of our officers was present. I know that they have to obtain all their permits and they have to get the license, but other than that, I think that if you're interested in the idea that you could put a stipulation on it that you would try it for a year, and if it didn't work this year, it went away. If it did work, and the way it's working other places, that it would stay. They do hold this race here every year, and it's getting larger and larger.
How many people would be participating in the beer garden, do they think?
As many as enter the race.
Yeah.
Age 21.
Over 21.
So how many people are 21, do you think?
I want to say, I've been the years that they had it. I want to say, kid-wise, that may be 5% of the racers. But otherwise, I think they had about 1,800 registered so far. And they come from many different states. And they actually, some of these conferences they're attending, they're going to market Holden Beach at places like the Big Savannah Marathon and different race venues.
And they don't actually sell the beer, they give a 1 beer per racer.
And that's, as a runner, that's kind of typical.
Yeah.
You get, from what I've seen when I've been in
So there's
races.
not a, get 5 or 6 beers and all that
Right.
that goes along with that.
You usually
Okay.
get something that either a ticket or a
Ticket.
band that exchanged for one.
Okay.
And it's in our ordinance that they have to request to you guys. I think the only other time this has ever been addressed as being requested was for a town event for wine tasting at a tree lighting, and that was before my time, so I can't talk to that much, but this would be the first.
Yeah. I think it's fairly unique, one beer, everybody else is doing it. All of our peers, basically.
That's what they've told me. I'll tell you, I haven't called to double check
okay,
that, but that's
okay,
what they've
yeah,
said in the
okay.
meeting.
Interesting.
I'll speak up a little bit. I do have a lot of concern about this setting a precedence. Others are gonna come forward for the other festivals and say, gee, we wanna have a beer hall. And how are you gonna say, no, you can't have a beer hall if you let these people have one? And who's to say that the beer hall that they're gonna have for the festival is gonna limit it to one beer and not let them have as many beers as they want? And we bill ourselves as a family beach, but we're gonna have a family beach event where we're gonna be serving beer. So it just, to me, goes against our family beach marketing tool that we use, and it's also setting a precedence that others are gonna come afterwards saying, gee, you did it for them, I wanted to.
Yeah, I concur with what Mr. Kaiser said, so I won't repeat what he said. In addition, I wonder about liability for the town. I know we aren't, and it's a perceived liability I'd be concerned about. Are we going to consider these independently, correct? Approve the ban and then
I think we should consider them
the
independent.
beer garden? Okay.
Madam Clerk, the agenda has, it was prepared, says that we're going to receive requests. It doesn't say anything about action. Is that a problem?
No, as long as the board is fine with voting on it, it's.
All right. Is there a motion of any kind coming forth?
I move we approve the banner.
Is there a second?
I second.
Discussion about the banner. Hearing none, are you ready to vote?
Yes, sir.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. It's unanimous, Madam Clerk. Now, do you want to consider the beer garden request? If I don't hear a motion, we'll move on.
Yeah, I'd like more information, actually, with the other towns. I mean, I understand the reluctance, but, you know, yeah, I think it's pretty unique. One beer, everybody, all the other towns are doing it, it's connection. Do we really want to be known as, you know, I know it's family-friendly, but it's a very unique situation that you know, that's why I asked. Are they selling beer, or they get multiple beers, and the other towns are doing it? I'd like to really hear if that's true, and how the other towns are handling the liability, and how the other towns feel about that, you know, doing that. And is there a time?
Well, that's, I
sensitive?
guess that was my next question. I don't know if I can ask this, but if it doesn't mess up with their time of advertising, since their race is September 9th, is there a way we could look into putting them to come and answer more questions on the agenda for next month for that part?
I'd say yes.
I don't need any more information. I mean, this is a private enterprise that we already support through volunteers, and I'm not inclined to need any more further information.
What's your pleasure? We need a motion, or else we're going to move on.
I think you don't have a motion.
Lack of a motion, we'll move forward. Thank you, Mrs. Ferguson.
Thank you, Chris.
Number 12, Attorney Freeland.
Mayor, Commissioners, members of the public. Items 12A and 12B on the agenda tonight are a result of the actions last month, whereby the council adopted a resolution of intent to consider an ordinance amending the town charter to implement 4-year staggered terms for the town commissioners and setting a date for the public hearing thereon. That public hearing, of course, was held at 6:45 earlier this evening. For consideration tonight is ordinance 1710, which calls for amending the charter of the town of Holden Beach to implement 4-year staggered terms for the members of the town of Holden Beach Board of Commissioners. Resolution 17-9 calls for a special election for the purpose of submitting to a vote the ordinance implementing 4-year staggered terms for the members of the town of the Holden Beach Board of Commissioners. If anybody has any additional questions, I'd be happy to answer them at this time.
I have probably a stupid question, but I'll ask it for sake of the record. The special election would only involve residents of Holden Beach, correct?
That's correct, yes. And so the special election would be held on November 7th, 2017. And if the residents of Holden Beach voted in favor of the amendment, then it would take effect on November 5th, 2019. That's when the 3 commissioner candidates receiving the highest votes would be elected to 4-year terms. The 2 commissioners receiving the next highest votes would be elected to 2-year terms, and then open seats would be elected for 4-year terms from then on out.
I want to correct one thing, make sure everybody understands. It's not open to residents of Holden Beach. It's open to registered voter
Yes.
residents of Holden Beach.
Right.
Thank you.
That's an important distinction.
I have a,
If you are,
on section 3, it says this ordinance shall be effective only upon approval by a vote of the people.
That's correct.
But we're asking to amend, so that amendment doesn't take, it will be stricken if the people don't approve it?
That's correct.
Okay.
It would not go into effect if the public does not approve it.
Okay.
And their approval is over 50% of the voting public?
Yes, that's my understanding. Any additional questions?
Getting off mighty easy, aren't you?
Bro, give me what you got.
Be sure to tell Noel what a hard time you had here tonight.
I will, I'll tell you, grilled you.
Yeah. Anything else, commissioners? All right. Madam Clerk, does that satisfy all the requirements?
I would need them to vote on the ordinance and the resolution if they choose to move forward.
You can do it individually or collectively, whatever the motion may be.
I move we approve the ordinance amendment and the resolution.
To do it collectively?
Yeah, everyone understand the motion? We need a second.
Second?
Have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. It's unanimous, Madam Clerk. Number 13, Town Manager Hewitt talked to us about the 16-17 budget update.
Good evening. This is the budget report as of 30 June, near closeout on the end of the fiscal year. The short version is that all funds are in the black. We've ended up, one point I want to make, can you go back, can you go one more slide, Heather? Is that this is preliminary and unaudited data, so these are gross numbers. It hasn't passed the scrutiny of the auditor. Now, can you go back to the numbers chart? We've ended up in the black. We're about $133,000 ahead in the general fund. Our water fund is close to $200,000 ahead. Our beach parks access and recreational trust fund is right at closing in on $1.7 million ahead. That's primarily as a result of receiving the FEMA reimbursements. And as I've stated several times in the past, that's a long life process. It's probably going to take another 6 to 8 months before we close that out. And I'm going to pick on Christie right here. A big portion of us being able to tease these reimbursements out is because of her diligence and hard work in ferreting out all of the expenses associated with our beach management program and the FEMA reimbursements. Our canal dredging fund has now escrowed almost $1.7 million, and the closeout on the Central Reach Capital Project Fund ended up about $43,000 ahead. And as a result of when we do close the books out, we do have some legal bills outstanding, but the residual of that $40,000, of course, will be closed out and revert back to the B Park fund. So when we get the audit in, those that closeout, of course, in the Central Reach project will those are B Park funds. So again, it's unaudited data. Heather, go back to the second slide. Yeah, a couple of highlights I do want to point out is that our ad valorem tax collection rate is up. It exceeded the estimate there, a couple of tenths of a percent. Our state distributed revenues on our vehicle and franchise and sales and use tax is up. I was really surprised about the vehicle tax. It's probably double what we had estimated in our vehicle collections, and pretty much when I asked, there's a lot of new cars on the island is basically what that is. Water and sewer use charges, we pretty much got that one dialed in pretty tight. We were right at 100% of our projected revenue, and our occupancy tax collections are up about 5% over what we budgeted. And again, many of the FEMA reimbursements are dispersed through all of our funds. Some in a lot of places where we would have had a straight expense, those expenses were subsidized somewhat, to a great extent, by the FEMA reimbursement. Things that we would have normally fixed were damaged during the storm, and then we didn't have to spend the town money to repair that, and we're able to affect the repairs of those things, like in the water department with sewer valve pits using FEMA money. So that's what that last item means there with the FEMA bloat. Other than that, that is my budget report for the end of the year.
Any questions, commissioners?
Mr. Hewitt, you mentioned the legal fees remaining from the Central Reach. Is that for the easements?
And I'm assuming no surprises as far as the FEMA reimbursement so far?
No surprises.
Okay. And in the future?
It's just as confusing every time that they send somebody else down to deal with us as it was the first time.
Okay, you feel you have a handle on that, and in the future, I realize this is the end of year, but we're going to see a more detailed.
Oh, the audit will ratchet everything down to the gnat's eye.
Okay, great, thank you.
I want to thank you and your staff for all that work you did to make that FEMA money a realization.
Well, we hope that it's the pump's still prime and we're able to still keep it coming.
Thank you, Mr. Hewitt. We're on number 14, top of page 2 of the agenda. Audit contract in regards to Thompson Price, Scott Adams and Company, PAs. Mr. Hewitt.
Yes, sir. At the Finance Officers Conference, the state auditor voiced his concern, the new state auditor voiced his concern about the viability of the local government retirement system. And as I have ascertained, this is my assumption, that as a result of that, there have been some 4 dozen or so winners selected to test, do some additional testing as far as how well local governments are actually performing with their administration of the contributions to the local government retirement system. We have been selected to participate. The fee, as proposed by the our auditor, is about $2,500. We can select, the board can choose to get a separate auditor to do that additional attestation, but since they're getting ready to kick it off day after tomorrow, the regular audit anyway, I think it's just you have to approve somebody. These guys are going to be in the books already. They know it. And I would think that it would be a logical choice just to have Thompson Price to do it at the same time.
I understand that the office basically mandated that 6 people participate in this.
It's about 48. There's about 4
48?
dozen
Good
statewide. It
grief. Okay.
ranges from Charlotte, Mecklenburg down to, us.
Okay. So as I understand it, they're going to be looking at our contribution, our administration of the contribution to that retirement fund.
That's correct.
Should anyone read into this that there's any question on the sufficient funding for that retirement fund or system?
Well, I mean, that's the whole state local government retirement system, and that is exactly what the auditor is concerned about. The state auditor is concerned about its viability in the out years and as a way of making sure that the foundation blocks are there across the entire contributing entities. I guess he's starting with to make sure that everybody's putting in what they're supposed to be putting in.
Okay. Thanks.
I think that answers your
Yep.
question.
Can I make the motion?
Sure.
I move that we adopt or we approve the update to the 2016-17 Audit Committee contract with Thompson Price Scott Adams and Company, PA.
Need a second.
Second.
Motion second, discussion. Hearing no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. It's unanimous, Madam Clerk. We're on to number 15, discussion and possible nomination of members to fill vacancies on the town boards. First item is the Board of Adjustment. Madam Clerk, do you want to give any instructions on voting and how you're going to handle this?
If we can do it, the Board of Adjustment, if you could pass me your regular member votes first, so that way we can do an alternate based on that. The ballots show the current regular members and Jack Lohman, who also is interested in switching boards. So if you guys could just mark who you want and pass them to me, make sure you sign your ballots, please.
Shared.
Tally these really quick. That's the regular.
So these are the ones
These three are for
that, okay. The people that are going to be on the Board of Adjustment, regular members are Larry Bloom, Larry Reinhardt, and Ben Baker. All right, so now we're gonna do the alternates, is that correct?
Yes, sir. We don't have enough people.
That's what I thought. Right.
There's not, if you want to choose one of the
We don't
ones
have
that,
enough people on this one.
that
It's late.
inquired about one of the other
We
boards,
just elected one.
if you want to wait till the end and see who's left.
This is Board of Adjustment
Board of
alternate, right?
Adjustment, right. There's not enough interested people, you're one short.
What? I'm not sure I understand either. You got more vacancies than you have people, okay?
Everybody interviewed today was interested in P and Z and Parks and Rec.
So the option would be obviously to go ahead and consider putting the one.
After you vote for P and Z, you might want to make one of the people who applied for P and Z a Board of Adjustment member. If they're interested in doing so.
Yeah, can we do that?
Really what this comes down to is these two will be alternates. And then we're still one short.
Can I go ahead and announce that?
Is that, well, yes.
Is that all right, Commissioners? Ken, you understand what we're doing? All right. The alternate members of the Board of Adjustment will be Ann Arnold and Jack Lohman. All right.
Thank you. So now if we could do the regular member E and Z, the regular members of E and Z. And that's just one member.
All right, Planning and Zoning alternate member will be Greg Shue.
And then we need two alternate members for planning and zoning board.
Yeah, you just said alternate.
Oh,
You
I'm
meant
sorry, did I
regular.
hand you the wrong piece?
You meant regular.
It's for the regular member.
That's a regular member.
Regular member would be Greg Shue.
What does it say right here? It
Oh,
says
he's
alternate.
he's currently an alternate, and they just moved him up to, I told you this would be a confusing one. He's moved up to the regular.
You gave me a curveball, so I'm mark out the word alternate here. All
He's
right.
currently,
So Greg Shue is a regular member of Planning and Zoning Board.
right.
Hereafter, okay?
And then we need two alternate members.
Right.
So we need five of us.
Yes.
Well, there we go.
Jack.
That's your alternate.
Peter is the alternate.
He'll alternate, and then
And Woody will be a member.
He'll be a new alternate.
Both of these are alternates?
correct, yes.
The alternate members of the Planning and Zoning Board will be Peter Paulus and Woody Tyner.
And then, since we switched Jack, it'll be 5 members of Parks and Rec.
Okay, so all of these will be,
Parks and Rec.
okay. Members of the Park and Recreation Advisory Board will be Karen Flashauer, Nelson Payne, John McIntyre, Olivia Gomez, and Dolly Mitchell.
So, if you guys are interested, there's a couple of people who weren't selected that could serve for BOA, or we could bring that back next month, and I could contact the people.
Why don't we go ahead and
who interviewed.
find out what they'll do?
Bring it back next month, too?
No, let's go
Oh, do
ahead.
it right now?
Yeah.
Okay,
We got a lot of nice people here.
it looks like it would be Ken Weston, Cheryl Dillinger. I think that's the only two, Cheryl Dillinger and Ken Weston would be the 2 remaining.
All right. Ken Weston and Cheryl Dillinger, are those two names that,
And I don't believe they stayed unless I'm looking right past them. Is Ken?
There's
Oh, Ken
Ken.
is up here, yes.
Yeah, Ken's there. I think, I don't see Cheryl. Teacher not to leave the meeting.
all right. So how many seats can be filled?
We need a Board of Adjustment alternate,
Can Ken serve again on the Board of Adjustment?
if he's interested, yes.
In spite of his past serving,
You just need to remain off for a year, after a
and
year.
he's been off.
Is that something you're interested in, Ken? Do you want to be considered for Board of Adjustment, or no?
I'll be quite frank with you. No, I'd say I served maximum number of terms 3 times. Since then, my hearing has gone down pretty bad. And even the last time I was serving, I was having difficulty in having to ask some of the people to say it again. And I'm not physically able to wear the type of hearing aids I would have to wear to do that job. Where other committees, not like that.
Thank you.
That leaves one.
If you guys, that leaves one, so if you'd like to appoint her, and I could check with her tomorrow, and if that doesn't work, we could just come back to the
What do you want
next
to do? You want to get more names submitted? You want to act on this or
I'd
what?
act on this one?
I'm all right with
I'm okay
the
with
one,
acting on this one,
if
yeah.
she's willing.
We've already solicited input.
Right.
All right. You want to make a motion, somebody?
Move we select Cheryl Dillinger to fill the alternate position of Parks,
Board of Adjustment.
Board of Justice.
I second it.
All right, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
does that bring the conclusion to our best ability to fill? Okay. I would like to encourage all of you that have not submitted your application to serve, please, you can readily see that we have a lack of names per the spots that are available on these various boards. So there's a lot of talent on this beach. Please be willing to share yours with your neighbors, friends in the town. And those of you that have served, are serving, and are about to serve, thank you very much. All right, number 16, Mr. Thrier, street right-of-ways and so forth.
Yeah, I worked with the town attorney, not the Noel, I worked with Noel, not yourself, to come up with an update to the right-of-way, and she had sent in what we have. I just think, and I hadn't had a chance, she went away on vacation, and I hadn't had a chance to talk to her about some of these specifics. So I'd like to propose changing a couple of them. I don't think it will make much of a difference, but if you, they talk about related to right-of-ways, hereby amend by adding the following as clause 4 here too. And everything is fine except for A, not closer than, I would like to change 4 feet to 2 feet. B, not more than 18 inches in height. I'd like to change to 28 inches. And specifically for that, I'd like, I'd talking to some folks, they think it should be a little higher so it would be more noticeable as a safety issue. And then I'd like to add something that it should apply only to R1 and R2 zoned properties. And speaking with the town clerk, the way we typically do this is discuss this, and then the town attorney makes the changes, then the next meeting we vote on it. So is that?
Yes, that's an acceptable procedure.
Okay, thank you. So I make a motion that we submit my 3 amendments with what's already written from the town attorney for her or his review, and put it on the agenda for next meeting for discussion and possible vote.
I second that motion.
All right, discussion?
Can the staff comment?
Yes, absolutely.
The town attorney did a mighty fine job at crafting a proposed draft. There's only one thing was missing of that. There's been absolutely no consultation with any of the other staff on the matter. And in looking through this and talking with the other staff members, it's problematic. The entire landscaping ordinance is problematic and has several direct conflicts with some of our existing policies and other ordinances. There's a subdivision ordinance that specifically speaks to street right-of-ways are maintained in accordance with DOT standards. And the DOT standard is that you don't have anything in the right-of-way except speed limit signs and mailboxes.
So the current ordinances
The
are
current
in
ordinance
conflict?
was adopted in 1985 prior to the sewer being implemented. prior to our land use plan being adopted that has a host of policies that speak to making transit up and down our streets here friendly for all skills and abilities. And the thing that comes to my mind is the guy, a blind man with a cane or somebody in a wheelchair has to be out in the middle of the road to get down the road. It's what we have now is absolutely diametrically opposed to that type of policy. It was shall I say, recent era, and some of the realities and demands in the marketplace that we're seeing with the community. It absolutely conflicts with anything on Ocean Boulevard. To have something within the right-of-way on Ocean Boulevard, it's a landscaping, and I know people are going to be ill as hornets when I'm making this statement. It's a safety issue, and the more things that you put in the right-of-way, it decreases response times, it adds to the clutter in the background going down the road. Our speed limit's 35 miles an hour, and with people that are in proximity to the road already, most of our roads are 50 feet wide. You got a 20 feet, most of the pavement's 20 feet wide. It may or may not be in the center of the right-of-way. It creates problems. Landscaping in the right-of-way creates problems for the maintenance of the streets, not only on the sewer. I'm a get rid of everything in the right-of-way kind of guy, because I know what it takes to maintain that right-of-way, and I recognize the safety issues there. And I also know that when this ordinance was adopted in 1985, we didn't have the stormwater issues that we do now. It was a different time and place. The real estate market was different. There was only 250 people here on the island full time. So we've outgrown that, or I think that the town has outgrown that. So,
Mr. You're talking about 95.05 that's in our packet, right? Street rights of way.
I'm talking about the entire streets right of way landscaping issue, and I know that that's a change to it, but I think that the entire landscaping ordinance needs to be thrown out the window. Now, I know that there are some specific cases that can be addressed, but without some type of top-down perspective on it, I'm really not liking this landscaping ordinance at all. It puts pedestrians in the right-of-way. There isn't any place for people to walk today. When I was going home last night, there was a family of about 10, and it was on Brunswick Avenue East, and they were walking down the middle of the road. As I came up behind them, they didn't know which way to scatter. They were trying to figure out which kid do I grab and get out of the road, and I was just easing down the road.
I have a question about that, though, David. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brunswick Avenue is state-owned.
No, it's not. That's a town street.
I mean, I'm sorry, you mentioned
Ocean Boulevard.
Ocean Boulevard. So
Mhm.
this doesn't apply to Ocean Boulevard, correct?
No, this street's right-of-way ordinance, the way I read
It's not
it.
we don't have any, we don't maintain, that's not a town street.
Well,
Ocean Boulevard.
This ordinance, as it's written today, applies out there on Ocean Boulevard. There's a specific exemption in it for 3 addresses in the 1100 block, or in the 1100 area.
And I could address those, but at the same time, if you're gonna say that this wouldn't apply to Ocean Boulevard,
then your no parking ordinance that you had wouldn't apply either, because NCDOT public right-of-ways, you can park in. You can park in those, unless by local ordinance.
We have no parking on Ocean Boulevard, is my understanding.
Right,
But that's about local ordinance, right?
No,
that's right. That's what I'm saying, you can't say this would be excluded, I don't think, unless you specifically said that, would exclude Ocean Boulevard.
Well, you're still gonna fly in the face of the fact that there's a DOT maintenance manual that says that anything in DOT right-of-way cannot be, and we have a subdivision ordinance that says our streets are maintained in accordance with the DOT manual that says you can't have anything in the right-of-way. So there's a conflict in the ordinance
right, you
to
can't,
begin
right,
with.
there is a current conflict in the ordinance.
Right.
And it's been there for years, as you
Right,
mentioned.
and it's horrible to try to adjudicate every time that Chris has to go out there and cut down a bush to do a repair in or near a property line, but it's in the right of way. It is a constant fight with the owner on whether or not, one, he can do it, two, why he doesn't have to put it back. I mean, it's a nightmare with what we have on the books now. Anyway, that's kind of the staff general impression,
but
and y'all need that.
Would it be your position then that we would have no parking in the right-of-way anywhere on the island?
What I'm addressing here is the landscape ordinance. The parking, y'all have established a special committee to take a holistic view at the entire realm of parking. What I'm talking about is the landscaping
Understand.
issue.
But you commented the blind man walking down the street. If there's a car parked in the right-of-way, he can't walk there either. And you wouldn't have mailboxes or anything else in the right-of-way.
And currently, we have, the island has dozens, literally dozens and dozens of what you're describing as violations.
Right, and the way that the ordinance is administered is it's based on a complaint system, and the complaint system is strictly driven by folks that have standing, and that's been interpreted at the staff level as a neighbor reports that. And, I mean, that's the way that we've had to deal with it over the years. There is no permitting procedure in place to track and see if in fact that the landscaping that may go in meets the criteria that's in the ordinance. That's not administered formally. So there is no way that we even are able to check and see if it's in accordance with our existing ordinance, which it is really problematic.
David, I have a question. If we pass what you're looking to pass and basically it's going to eliminate all on-street parking everywhere, is that the way you see it? If you only have 2 foot of land to park on, you'd have to park on the street. But you can't park on the street because you'd be blocking
I hadn't
cars,
thought
fire
about it that
trucks.
way, but you'd basically be landscaping, parking out of business, I guess.
So basically what I'm saying is, all the grant money that we've ever gotten in the past, we'd never be able to get again.
Well,
Is
I
that
mean,
correct?
I don't know.
Because we wouldn't be providing for public parking.
That's not true. It's my understanding that is not
I
true.
don't know the answer to that question, one way or the other.
And it potentially affect our FEMA money.
To what extent, I don't know.
1 second. It's voluntary, so it wouldn't eliminate all right-of-way parking. If you'd like to put a rope or a bush to do that, you would be allowed to do that. If you choose not to, or if it's a vacant lot that chooses not to, or if it's a commercially zoned lot, It would not. So to say that eliminates all parking in right-of-way is, I think, is not true.
And that's not the only public parking we have on the
No,
island.
you have a little bit under the bridge,
No, we have
and a little
parking.
parking lot down there.
Yeah.
That's it.
But the thing I would like to say is that we really haven't vetted it in the ordinance book, and I'll give you an example. We're talking about things being allowed in the right of way. If you look at this 9505, if you go through it, there's some real reasoning behind some of that stuff, and some of it should have went away. And I'll give you an example. The fact that 1189, 1190, 91, and 92 were allowed to have those ropes in place was because when the west end was put in, no one was paying attention, and NCDOT didn't require it, or someone wasn't paying attention, and a proper turnaround wasn't put in down there. But whenever we lost the shack down there, then DOT paid attention when we got them involved, and now they have a proper turnaround, which means that before, if you got to the end of that road, you only had people were trying to turn around to these folks' yard. And we could have effectively, had we followed up properly, or if I'd have realized then what the effect was before we did it the right way, then we could effectively took that out, and that wouldn't be misknown in the ordinance book. In other words, we wouldn't be allowing ropes and things down there because there was no special circumstance for it to be down there once they have proper turnaround. That's why it was there. There's a 10-foot. In case you don't know, you can have a fence within 10 feet of the pavement now in this particular portion of the ordinance, which is in conflict with our land use ordinance, which says you gotta have it on the property line at 15 feet on the easement. So these two are in conflict. But I have a suspicion that it's in conflict because this was another one of those actions taken, because we have sections in the ordinance book where we actually have reduced on this end of the island the setback requirements by 5 feet, based on where they were located. You know what I'm talking about. So I'm assuming that this exception was put in there for that area as well. So there's some reasoning in there as to say that we allow stuff in the right of ways already. There are some exceptions, just like you were talking about before, that are in there, but I think they're in there for a reason. But they're not all inclusive over the island. As far as what David was saying about the stuff that's in there now, staff, we do, if we notice what we consider a public safety issue, we send out letters. Bushes hanging in the right of ways, you know what I mean? Things sticking up in the right of ways. We had somebody put a boulder in the right of way on one of our side streets, and we sent them well, we had a complaint, but we sent them a notification. We get complaints, but we also see them. The ordinance also talks about sight triangles and keeping those clear in intersections. And then, and when I say about this not really being gone through, and I don't know if it's a bad thing or good thing, because I don't have an opinion one way or the other, but if you read D, I'm not sure what we're saying when we say you can put all these things in there, and then the town in D says that it has no responsibilities for these things. So you're gonna tell people, okay, it's okay to put a rope out there, it's okay to put a post out there, but if you don't have a no parking ordinance, or you don't have a nothing in the right of way ordinance, then I can come along as an individual, pull up his ropes and park there. Because your D says you have no responsibility, one way or the other. Now, I'm not an attorney, but I can tell you that I gotta enforce this. But it clearly says the town has no responsibility to protect any of these items. So, if the intent is to create a situation where we're protecting land and keep, or to keep cars off of them, then I think we need to take another look at it. Do you understand what I just said? And so it needs to be looked more into to see where it fits and how it doesn't fit into the context.
That's an interesting point. So
Well, also, ECHO says all existing concrete within the right-of-way is removed for any reason cannot be replaced. So that means any sidewalk from construction has been damaged or you couldn't replace.
any driveway, any driveway.
Driveway, whatever.
And then there's the other thing is this, and I thought about this later, but you take Brunswick Avenue. We have right-of-ways at Brunswick Avenue, right? We have right-of-way areas. If we ever decide to put a sidewalk down there, we've encouraged people to put things in the way that's gonna be cost-effective, that it costs to move those things, but at the same time, they spent money to put them there. You know what I mean? And now we're gonna put a sidewalk through it.
My point is, and I understand the exceptions you just said, but there are many, many, many that don't fit within those exceptions, that people have obstructions to keep people from parking in their front lawn, basically. So, and they're there now. So we're unequally applying the ordinance. And I understand the complaint system, but we're still unequally applying that ordinance.
I had a question about that. What was the basis for the ordinance being enacted by complaint enforcement?
What's the basis?
The reality of that is that,
Is that what the ordinance says? It'll be enforced?
And if there's a safety hazard and all these other reasons not to do it, then that doesn't make sense.
It's a default administrative process that's been arrived at, because if we didn't use some type of complaint-based system with someone that has standing, you would have the yard Nazis running around telling on one another and raising a ruckus and just keeping things stirred through the ceiling, and that's from my perspective.
Well, I understand that from a practicality standpoint, but isn't that, well, I'm surmising that that's how we got here today. I mean, if somebody's not complaining.
Yep.
But therefore, I think we've got a mishmash of conditions now in the right-of-ways that doesn't seem appropriate.
Well,
I'm not the one who has to enforce it. I'm just asking the question.
Yeah, I'll default to the first of the point in, paragraph A, 1 and 2. It talks about not presenting a safety hazard and not impeding traffic. In 1985, traffic was a car on the highway. In 2017, it's people walking, it's people running, it's bicycles, it's tricycles, it's all of these other pedestrian type people-driven modes of transportation that take up more than just the 20 feet of hardscape pavement somewhere in the right-of-way, aside and apart from the maintenance issues now that we have a maturing water and sewer system.
My attempt is to codify what is reality. And if it was such a safety issue or a traffic issue, then that reality should have been changed a long time ago. Whether it was people complaining or not. So I don't understand the logic, because there, like I said, there are dozens of these instances that my attempt is to codify it. If it's happening all over the island, then put some rules around it, and make it known that what the rules are.
Well, I'm okay with clearing right of way. I'm with the public works guys and the public safety guys on making sure that the ability to move through the town, that there's a safe place. Now, there's going to be a whole lot of people mad when we got to tear up their rose bushes, but those rules are in a place. But it has gotten worse over 37 years. And it has grown to a point where, now that it is had the light shined on it, it may be a good time to enforce it. Not only some type of enforcement, but I would say go the other way. The proposed ordinance seems to allow it. I mean, it lets it fudge more. But I'm trying to articulate that I'd like to see it go the other way, so that the right-of-ways can be made safer, clearer, and more easily maintained. You know, just something as simple as mowing the grass on the 13 miles of town right-of-way is a challenge for the public works guys, because some lots don't have any landscaping in it. Chris maintains them. Others, they've got Bermuda grass that's just as fine as any on the golf course, but there's not any thing blocking the public works guys when they're mowing down the right of way. And guess what? He's not going to get off that lawnmower to change the elevation on the mowing deck, and when he goes through it, it leaves a brown stripe the entire length of it. The guys on rollbacks, the issue with the rollback folks, previously when we did it, we would try to ride the golf cart on the side of the road and stay out of the road. Well, we would get blowback for driving up in into the right-of-way that's in front of their house, not their yard, but the yard that's nicely maintained. So this landscaping issue in the right-of-way, it's got a host of issues. And, you know, it's 37 years deep, and, you know, it will take some fixing to get out from under it. If we're offered the opportunity to do that, I think that there's definitely some areas that we would be able to implement something over a period of time, much like the manner in which we implemented the mandatory construction of bulkheads on the canal lots. There was a period of time when the bulkheads were basically the same thing. And I think that there's one now that actually has a legal solution in place for, or a pending legal solution. You don't know about it yet, but it's coming your way.
For not having a bulkhead?
Yep, it's a mandatory thing, and it's taken about 4 or 5 years to get there.
I hope they're being assessed for maintaining that canal when they're
yeah,
flooded.
they are.
But anyway.
They are. But anyway,
Well,
only comment I've got.
Getting to the canals, when I came here, we did an assessment of the canals. We sent out hundreds of letters. We've been on it since day one, and there's one left.
And y'all have done a great job, and I'm glad you did it.
But as far as the right-of-way enforcement, you give me the go-ahead, and I'll enforce it.
Well, I got a comment about that. You know, we have to be prudent, and I would strongly discourage us just deciding, okay, we're going to clear all the right-of-ways regardless of what's there. That's just not realistic, and I don't think it's in the best interest of the homeowners. However, if we've seen that we have evolved to this point because of, well, in my opinion, because of the complaint-based enforcement, I understand the whys behind it, but I see that as being a major factor in how you got there. People, particularly, I could see where people would say, hey, I'll let you do that, and I won't complain if you do this, and you won't complain. However, given all of that, that's the history. Today, I'm seeing things that I question that are already being done now, and I'm pretty sure there's a swimming pool on Scotch Bonnet that is built right beside the road. And I don't understand that, because isn't that in the right-of-way? And I'm not putting you on the spot, but maybe that's another symptom of disregard or lack of respect for what the purpose of a right-of-way is. But are we looking at that? Is that one of the other?
I can tell you that I have never issued a building permit for anything to be constructed in a right-of-way.
Well, I believe you, but there's a swimming pool there right against the road.
That's Scotch Bonnet right away, is one of the narrows that we have, right away back to about 3 feet wide, and they asphalt right there, they tried to read it, looks like it's.
It's the road. The road isn't in the center of the right.
Okay, so what you're telling me, Scotch Bonnet has no right-of-way on the left as you go down it? Well, the swimming pool is right against the pavement. But anyway, I just think we should look carefully at whatever we can do to stop this. And I'm speaking my opinion here. I just have a different opinion on right-of-ways, and maybe it's because of my utility background. But I do see a safety issue. We currently have a safety issue. I understand allowing construction vehicles to park on property along the boulevard because they got to park somewhere, but just that presents a significant hazard, particularly in some cases where today there is a house being constructed right beside a CAMA entranceway. So you got people walking off the beach and they can't see where traffic is. But anyway, this isn't an easy issue.
My biggest thing is, when you show up to a house to do a sewer leak or a water repair, you're gonna have to get out of work for 2 hours to get somewhere to figure out the truck, and that's where I'm at now.
And I understand y'all are replacing.
It's gonna get worse if we tighten it up even, or we only got 2 foot, I'd have to park the clip at the road.
And I understand that you're replacing any plants that you have to displace to do your repairs.
They like for you to, like I said, I've been telling that plenty of times, being on town property.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a requirement.
That's
So,
not a requirement, they expect you to.
Since this seems to be such a large issue, should this be something that we send to P and Z to have them look at it, or have a committee made to look at it and evaluate it? And 'cause it looks like there's a lot of fingers that go into a lot of different documents that need to be researched to put this to bed properly and not with a knee-jerk reaction.
yeah, my original request was to send it back to the attorney in the town to evaluate the changes so we can address it at the next meeting. But
There's a lot of review that's got to go into that type of thing, and to bring something like that back for the next meeting, I don't think that that's a practical timeline. That's,
yeah, I'm be more than happy to have P and Z review it. I think that's a good idea.
Could you come back with an estimate on when you could have some results, even if they're preliminary? Or give us a timeline for
at the
reviewing it?
next meeting, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're asking for a staff estimate on the review, or it's what you're talking about, the planning and zoning board.
A staff estimate
Of what type,
the effect?
of what type of timeline it would take on to review all the elements involved in looking at the landscape. Yeah, we can come back to you with that, or would you rather send it to the planning and zoning board to look at that? If you're looking, well, I can't speak for the planning and zoning board.
Well, we know the
And
planning-
ultimately, they'll get their answers from the staff,
We know the planning and
I
zoning board
think.
have staff support.
So what would you like?
I'd like to, I'd agree with Commissioner Kaiser, send it to the P and Z. And I know the staff definitely supports the P and Z.
You want to withdraw your motion and by consensus send it to P and Z?
Correct, yes.
Second maker, you agree with that? All right, everybody understand what we just did?
Yes, sir.
All right. Audience understand what just took place? Okay.
I think we had someone say no.
Was that a no?
What are they gonna do? Are they gonna review the ordinances?
It'll go to next month's meeting, in simple terms. All right.
Will I have an opportunity to talk to this after the meeting's over?
You can talk about it tonight. When it's, no,
So
sir.
at the end of the meeting.
There's an opportunity for you at the end, if you look at the agenda, number 20, you can talk about anything you want to talk about.
Well, we have can I make a comment? Don't we have an additional executive session?
28.
That's after.
that.
It's after.
That's
Okay.
after the comments.
Thank you.
Number 20, you can speak, sir, when you recognize. All right. And I saw some other hands go up while the commissioners were discussing. And those of you that raised your hand and didn't get recognized and have an opportunity to speak, you also will have a chance to speak when we get to number 20. Okay? All right, town manager's report.
Yes, sir. I've got a few items for your information tonight. First of all, Gen X and water supply. I don't think you can turn the television on or pick up a newspaper or without opening up your email without having some type of information coming in on the Gen X issue in the Cape Fear raw water intake. Those reports are continuing to come in. It seems like there's more chemicals that are turning up as a result of more testing going on, but it appears from what I'm reading that those are showing up within tolerances. I will not admit to knowing what those chemicals are, but there is a forum addressing Gen X and some of the other water quality concerns tomorrow at the Odell Williamson Auditorium at Brunswick Community College at 7 o'clock. Brunswick County's website is a real good source of information. They've actually hired an outside public relations firm to help with getting information out and are doing a pretty good job at keeping us abreast of what's going on. Anything further than that, I would refer you to the Brunswick County government website. The flood map status, I went to the Coastal Resources Commission meeting last week in Greenville. There was a team from the North Carolina flood mapping program, and the thing that jumped off the one slide that I saw after an hour and a half of learning about the flood map program, as many of you are aware, this update to the mapping began in 2006. It was released in 2014, and there have been evolutions of when those maps were going to be effective, beginning in the fall. It slipped to January, and then it's February. The one word that jumped off the slide for Brunswick County to me was now, instead of having a month, date, time certain, it is shifted to spring of 2018. It's alarming to hear about from this team of researchers about interesting modules of extra research, specifically coastal erosion and bathymetry modules that could be added to the existing modeling of the flood mapping program. That sounds like folks looking for another year's worth of funding on keeping their job going. And I'm sorry if I sound facetious or sarcastic, but that's where I am with it. I don't have a lot of hope that we're going to see the maps in early 2018. But the board had asked to report on any information that we could get, and that was my source for this month.
What's bathymetry?
That's how the bottom of the sea that's how the bottom of the sea slopes off and the wave run up results. So
Thank you.
I'd like to speak to the Elizabeth Street configuration. We're looking at doing something with a walkway at Elizabeth Street. That actual configuration is going to drive what elements can be accommodated within the Elizabeth Street site. We're working on conceptually on what type of design and a permit that would be required to do anything out there, assuming that it's a public right-of-way that we believe it is, and we're hoping for a fall implementation of anything being done out there after the Labor Day weekend. The Lockwood Folly Inlet, The Sidecaster Dredge Merit is on site. You might have seen it up under the bridge this morning. I didn't realize how small that thing was. I believe it's as small as the first shrimp boat that I worked on when I was a junior cadet. That is funded for 21 days. Whether or not it's going to take that whole complement of funding, of course, is going to be probably a function of how bad the inlet is shoaled up. Although the recent surveys as of 30 June show that the conditions out there have improved since the end of February, March on the outer bar. It's possible, again, that they won't use all of that funding, but pending the Merritt's refurb, we're still going to have problems for the next cycle. So what I'm thinking is that we'll get 10 to 12 days, and this is just speculation on my part. We'll get enough to clear the outer bar. There's about 300 meters, and looking at the survey on the outer bar that needs to be clear. Hopefully that'll give us another 10 days, and we can get the Currituck in on a spot dredge basis for to get us through the rest of the summer and the late fall. It's still a problem out there, though, for the follow-on. Remember, the Merritt's going to Memphis, Tennessee, the core yard. It's going all the way down and up the Mississippi River to the core yard to get a total refurb. On the legislative note, regarding Powell bill funds, last legislative session there was an approval for a study to be made that would look at adjusting the distribution of funds based on seasonal population. That's really important for us because right now the distribution on our Powell bill funds is done on a per capita basis and a miles of roads maintained. And there's a split there. Well, guess what our number is for per capita? About 600. It's ironic that our water system is calibrated and rated on a 6,000 person annualized type number. So that report that's going to come due to the Joint Transportation Oversight Committee on 1 December is on my radar anyway for our revenues in the upcoming year. What those results will be, I do not know, but that's I think that has potential for us. The North Carolina Beach Nourishment Fund that was proposed has not been approved, but I understand it will be back on the legislative calendar in August when the honorables reconvene. Lastly, on a personnel note, Kendra McDonald is going out on a medical leave, and Miss Jo Yunt will be filling in for her on a temporary basis. Many of you may remember Miss Jo. She worked with us for a couple years, about 3 years ago, before Kendra came back, but she's recently moved to the office and is a welcome addition during this busy time of year. That's all I have for tonight, y'all.
Do you have any insight into why the North Carolina Beach Nourishment Fund wasn't approved? Was it a technicality or something, or?
I don't.
Okay.
Any questions of Mr. Hewitt? Hearing none, the mayor's report, number 18 on the agenda. For those of you seeking high-paying jobs, and a lot of thank yous and no abuse, time runs out. I believe 12 o'clock Friday for you to sign up and run for commissioner of the mayor's position in the town of Holden Beach. So keep that in mind. If you are so moved, run up to Bolivia and sign up. It costs $5. With that, I end my report, Mr. Fletcher.
I want to thank all the people that signed up and agreed to serve on one of our boards. It doesn't take a lot of time, but it is, I mean, it's gonna be probably a meeting a month on most of them. The Board of Agenda doesn't meet every month, but the other two do. They have a lot of work to do, especially planning and zoning, parks and recs. It can be a lot of work involved. But if you want to serve the community and you feel that you've got a great island here and you'd like to help it out going forward, we'd appreciate you putting your name forward and serving on the boards, at least one term, and hopefully you fall in love and will serve another term after that. We have a good turnout tonight and a pretty good turnout for all the positions we had open, and I thank you for that.
Mr. Royal.
I'm going to start out with just a safety message, and this is based on my observations around the island and off the island. It has to do with the use of, or should I say, the non-use of turn signals. You know, there are many people in this room who know a lot more about the rules of the water than I, but one of them I do know is that you're supposed to make your direction known to others. And I'm just appalled that I've never been in the area where signal lights are so disregarded. And I've even observed, I hate to say, law enforcement personnel not using them. Not our own, for the record, but so the only reason I bring this up is that we can all be ambassadors. We can first start by modeling that right behavior. There's a reason for signal lights, especially, you know, when we have visitors on the island, and I understand they're looking for that rental property they hadn't been to in a while maybe, but we have enough hazards on the road, and, you know, we've read about, unfortunately, fatalities in the recent weeks, and I wondered if it was either due to inattention, due to texting or whatever, or possibly not using signal lights. So that's my safety message. I really liked the AARP discussion on age-friendly perspectives, and I see it as not only one for us seniors, but the issues to me is equally applicable to youngsters, because they have same issues. They're just at a different spectrum in terms of walking, needing access, easy access. So I think, and if in fact it's $0 to join that age-friendly network, I would encourage us to consider that in a future meeting. And then lastly, I'll just echo our unsung heroes, the volunteers, for all the committees that we have. I want to sing that. I'm not going to sing, but I do want to state that I really appreciate all the volunteers and what you do. You perform a vital function. Without that, I'm sure we would see the effects of it. So thank you for that.
Mr. Freer.
Yeah, I too really appreciate the AARP presentation, and again, love the cost, and I think it would be a great addition for us to focus on some things that we could do to improve the community for all ages, really, and I'd encourage us, I support it as well. And again, I thank all the volunteers. I know it does take time, and thanks for everybody for volunteering to the boards.
Mr. Kaiser.
I'll echo what Dave said already. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight, thank those who volunteered. I've, in the past, before I became a commissioner, volunteered for many of those boards, and it's a very important function. And thank you very much for your service. The other thing is that I realize that the right-of-way issue is a very hot topic. But all I'm looking for us to do is to come up with a well-thought-out plan, something that we don't implement at the spur of the moment, and then end up having to re-implement it again 6 months from now because we didn't think of all the things we should have thought of when we started. That's it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kaiser. Number 20, opportunity to speak. The gentleman with the cap on back here, if you will, come give us your name and speak into the microphone and tell us what's on your mind. I know you just been. I know you've just been coming here for about 60 years or so. I had property here for 50-some years.
Right, I bought my beach cottage 53 years ago, 54 years. But
What's your name?
I am part of the L.S. Holden subdivision. And before y'all get into a can of worms, y'all better check out the deed conveyance. On my deed, it is right away, and that Elizabeth Street is a private street allocated by L.S. Holden. The dock or the walkway going over the sand dunes was built by the people that's residents of L.S. Holden's subdivision. So I suggest, before you pass this bill about all the stuff that's on right-of-ways, you better check some of those maps, because some of that property is almost on the street that they got deeds to. So you better be careful. You're gonna open up a can of worms that y'all can't solve by worrying about mowing the yards going up and down the street. I would stick with Ocean Boulevard, but you start getting off on these little side streets were opened up 50 years ago. When I moved here, Conk Street wasn't even a street. Elizabeth Street was just a private little dirt road that went around. And Hillside Drive, y'all don't even know about Hillside Drive. That's disappeared. The ocean come in and got that. That's right in front of my cottage. So it's a lot of stuff that L.S. Holden, Alan's granddaddy, Miss Holden's father-in-law, so it's a lot of foresight that he laid out on the map that's giving right-of-ways every 2 lots, right-of-ways to the beach, all that stuff. But as far as parking, you can't give parking to a private lot owner. You can't let them park if they don't want you to park on them. You can't enforce that unless it's a state road. So y'all got law problems. So before you open up this can of worms about getting all that stuff on Brunswick Avenue, some of those houses are on the right-of-way if the city was to do its expansion like city managers are wanting to do it. I mean, you gotta cut their porches off. And I've rode these roads and sand dunes. I mean, I used to ride the beach buggy up and down the road, so that's how long I've been here. So, okay, my wife's saying be quiet. So anyway, I would be really smart about looking at some of these maps that L.S. Holden laid out. That's almost 100 years ago. I've been here 54 years, and I'm 80 years old. So he had foresight that a lot of y'all really don't have. And so I would check that out real serious before y'all vote on something that costs it. I mean, I'm a taxpayer, and all these guys that's complaining about having to work, well, I pay you price. I pay you bills. You know, I pay you salaries. I pay you for your children. All of these people that are tax people, it's pretty high taxes. It costs me a bunch of money each month, even if I'm not here. I don't rent my place, but if I'm not here, it costs me. And it don't take much upkeep for me. But some of these people, it do. But I'm saying, as commissioners, y'all better be real smart before you allocate responsibility of right-of-ways on all of these streets on this island. Because it was laid out by the Robertsons and the Holdens and Lonnie Small. It's a bunch of them. But anyway, thank you for recognizing me, Alan, and
Thank you.
thank you for all y'all coming. I've been here 53 years, and this is the first time I've ever been in the building. So I don't get I'm not nosy about what goes on in the city. Y'all do a good job. All of y'all do a good job. I've sent some letters to that guy before, and lawyer. But take care, and God bless all y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hucks. Who's next? Yes, ma'am.
Karen Fleischauer, 125 Lions Paw. In early May, Mark and I had the opportunity to take a 6-week road trip. We visited 15 national parks, and we were struck by the fact that at all the national parks, they don't sell bottled water, but they do sell empty bottles. What they have is several water filling stations throughout the park where you can fill your water bottle for free. And at these filling stations are signs with these facts. Americans use 50 billion plastic water bottles a year. That's 167 bottles for each person. 38 million end up in the landfill. End to end, they would circle the equator 217 times, making them use about 20 million barrels of oil and creates more than 2.5 million tons of CO2. What I'm asking the town to do is require everyone to have a recycling bin, to pick up the recycling weekly during the tourist season, and place recycling bins by the beach accesses. We're a family-friendly beach, so let's be environmentally friendly. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
I'm Joe Butler, 169 Brunswick Avenue East, and I'm going to go over a letter that I read to the Holden Beach Property Owners Association. I'll try to shorten it up as much as I possibly can. We've been here for a while. My letter is dated May 27th. My wife and I, Sharon, were surprised when a police officer visited our home last month in April, informing us that we needed to remove a small plastic fence along Ferry Road section of our property. The plastic chain, supported by 3x3 wood posts 2 feet above the ground, and painted the same color of the house. Now, why did I put that in? Years ago, we had the fence installed as a result of a visitor parking on the property, dropping his trash on the property. I went to talk to him, and he told me to go F myself. My grandchild was sitting right on the ground alongside of me, and I had to think twice before I responded and reacted. However, he said, "What are you going to do about it?" You know, I could have called the police. I had his license plate number. This guy was so nuts and crazy, he would have came back that night and burnt my house down. So what I did is I went through the right-of-way document years ago before I installed the fence. And it said the purpose of this regulation is to establish what may be placed in street right-of-way which are cleared by installation or repair of utilities, streets, or walkways. So to me, I looked at it as a utility right-of-way. If the town of Holden Beach wanted to put a walkway on my property, they had every right to do that. And I understood that, totally. This regulation is not intended, and I'm reading it, this regulation is not intended to remove or destroy landscaping or structures which are presently in place in the street right-of-way. Number one, they must not present a safety hazard. Well, my little fence does not present a safety hazard. 2, must not impede traffic. It don't do that neither. 3, is placed at risk of the individual. I understand that and I know that. Utility companies come in, they've come in for years. And I have an S-hook, stainless steel S-hook on it. They disconnect it, they come in, do their thing, they leave, and that's it. It's over with. Number 4 is encouraged in the document. So I figured I'm in the clear. And I had the fence installed. The fence was installed for years, as is a lot of other fences throughout this island. I have a neighbor that's 250 feet away from my house. I look at it every day on Golden Dune Way. And he's got the same exact fence, had the same guy install the fence. But yet I'm being asked to take my fence down. it gets better. The officer also visited us on Memorial Weekend. And on Memorial Day weekend, told me he's going to take the fence down. If I don't take it down, he's going to take it down by 8 p.m. And that I could be subject to fines or put in jail. That's nice, real nice, for my wife and I to hear that and that. So throughout Holden Beach, as I said, there are numerous improved properties that have various items in the right-of-way. We would like to know if the town has contacted any of these owners of improved properties and informed them of the same 30-day requirement to remove as we were given. I asked my neighbor three weeks ago whether or not he was visited by the police or sent a letter, and his answer was no. And he said to me, Joe, why'd you take that little fence down in front of your house? I said, because I was told to. We also expect the town to be consistent in decisions pertaining to all improved lots and not just those that have been identified. And I classify that as selective enforcement. And that's the term I'm using, selective enforcement. The commissioners are aware of the problem. We have a young lady in the audience that spoke about this, and I love the term that and I stole her term. Number one, she said, you can't put parking issues on the back of the homeowners. Number two, the east end of the island has become a problem because of day people. 3, trash left on the ground and the beach. At this meeting, the commissioners mentioned that they will be addressing the day visitor concerns. I made a motion, put the motion on the floor at the property owners meeting on Memorial Day. I couldn't sleep a wink the night before because it dawned on me that somebody had to second the motion. So I read the motion, and the motion had to do with before the issue of day visitors parking on improved properties throughout the island gets out of control, I make a motion that this association send a letter to the town of commissioners requesting their help from people parking on improved properties. I also recommend that if the town needs to communicate with property owners regarding a right-of-way issue, this should be communicated by letter instead of sending police officers to inform the homeowner. So there's 2 parts to that motion. Tonight, based on everything I heard, and it's so confusing, and that I respectfully request that the commissioners allow me to put my little fence back in place, which is no different than everybody else throughout this island, until a solution is rendered pertaining to this problem. Thank you.
Next.
Mark Pompey. I live at 166 Brunswick Avenue East. I want to say one thing about the comment you made. There's a great show on Netflix called The Plastic Ocean. Watch that. It's amazing how much plastic makes it in the ocean. The point I wanted to make is about the coastal productions. I've been running those races for years. I ran the race on Oak Island. I ran the race in Sunset Beach back in the spring. And yes, this is the first time they served beer, and it was a very controlled environment. I mean, there was like hardly any kids there, but they had somebody there to make sure that you were old enough. So you go check in on Friday night, and then they give you a pass, and your pass gives you a beer pass. All right, so they have free pizza and free beer when you get done running a 5K or half marathon or marathon. And I thought it was excellent. And I was absolutely appalled that Holden Beach doesn't want to do it because we're a family island. And family island cannot include beer. Well, I've been married 31 years. I have a wife, I've got 2 kids, I've got 2 Marines, and I'm a very, very family-oriented man, and you're not going to believe this, but I drink beer. And I can guarantee you, with God standing in front of me, that if it wasn't for beer, I wouldn't even have a family. There's some truth to that. What, do you think she was sober when I had those kids? So, I would like the board to reconsider that. It's an excellent race. I mean, it's actually called the BAM Series race. It stands for Big Ass Medals. So it's very cool. So you get a medal for every island, all right? So Holden Beach is coming up next in September, and then we do, I think, Ocean Isle in the fall. And then one of the other ones, all right? And actually all four of them fit together. They all snap together. And to be honest with you, next year, they're not gonna have those things. So they're actually gonna have sea animals on there. And they've already made them up, and I'm telling you, Holden Beach's medal is beautiful. It's the best of the four. But I would like to see that this island conforms to what all the rest of them do. You know, why are we different than Holden Beach? I mean, in Ocean Isle and Sunset and stuff. I think we should just let them do their thing. It's a great race, and it brings a lot of people in. All right, and you know, I'm sure that all the vendors and merchants and stuff really benefit a lot when a couple thousand people come in and race this, and all of a sudden we're going to lose 1,000 because we don't want to allow a beer to be served in it. So that's my point. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing a little humor to the room. Who's next?
Good evening. I'm Ava Palethorpe. I live at 142 Canal Drive. I would like to notify the Board of Commissioners and Mr. Hewitt that there is a user agreement coming forward on the lots that my mother owns between Mullet Street and Conch Street that are being used as a helipad for the fire department and emergency services. I'm speaking on behalf of my mother because she's very clear that she does not mind the property that's undeveloped being used for that purpose to save lives and to give immediate medical attention. Me being an RN, I certainly understand that. But when you use somebody's property, number one, you need to ask and notify the property owner that the property is being used for that purpose. Number two, there should be a user agreement with some terms put in there, because in no way are we forfeiting, dedicating, or conveying the land to the town now or in the future permanently for that use. And we are going to submit that to David Hewitt and to Chief Todd and my mother, and the three of them are going to agree on the terms of use. And I want to emphasize that we are not against the town and the fire services using it, but I think anybody sitting in this room can understand the liability issues. There's rotor blades swinging, there's onlookers coming on the traffic pattern, there's people that are yelling at each other, there's people gawking, there's children coming up Elizabeth Street. And I just want to go on the record right now, publicly, to the forum here. We are not opposed to the town of Holden Beach and the related emergency services using the property. But you should also know that the property has been drilled on for 2 or 3 years at night without my mother's knowledge. Anybody can get hurt. Anybody can sue. It's imperative that we all get on the same page. Once again, Mr. Hewitt, I'd like to say that this is another example of lack of notification to the property owners of changes that are taking place in their neighborhood. And the second thing I want to say is...
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, that even disturbs me even more, because it's being used to transport people off the island that have been injured.
I'll speak out of that. I thought that I had talked to Aunt Tony about this, and she was aware of it. Assuming that she was not aware of it and that the town was wrong or whatever, the helipad location has been moved eastward off of your property, approximately 300 feet between Mullet Street and Iron Age. And I thought I had sent you a note in that regard.
Alan,
So-
I don't mean to rebuttal you here in front. You came to our house 2 weeks ago on the first emergency helicopter ride, and we wondered what was going on. Then they came back last Wednesday, and it was in her property. It was on her property.
There's no doubt that it was, and it's been taken care of.
And
Chief-
we know nothing about it from you.
Well, right now, it has been taken care of. Chief Todd has moved the location east of you. You won't have to worry about it ever again.
And let me just say that I sent a text message to Chief Todd today saying that the agreement was in progress and that it would be to him within a week, and he's not notified me that anything had changed.
There's nothing going to change. It will not be back on your property.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My neighbor just called me, and he's having an insulin attack. He needs insulin, and he's got insulin, but he needs a needle tip. He took his kid home today to Fayetteville. He came back and tried to change cars, and he needs a needle tip. Does anybody know anybody who would have a needle tip? And if you can help, keep some help. Okay.
Awesome.
Anybody else want to speak? Anybody else want to speak?
That's it.
All right. We are now on number 20A. Madam Clerk, do you want to read your statement?
Yes, sir. Executive session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A5 to establish or instruct staff or agent concerning the negotiation of the price and terms of the contract concerning the acquisition of parcel numbers 232-NF029, 232-NF001, 232-NF002, 232-NF003, 232-NF004, 232-NF005, 232-NF006, 232-NF007, and 232-NF008 owned by Holden Beach Enterprises.
Is there a motion?
We need a motion.
We need a motion to go into executive session.
Move, we go to executive session.
I second it.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, it's unanimous. Don't know how long this is going to last. You're welcome to wait and we'll be.